Welcome to another parent-teacher video lesson from the earlygiftedmanual.com, a free website for homeschooled children 3 to 7 years old and their parents that promotes and develops giftedness at an early age. I am Gary Blank, the creator of that site, and your host and facilitator for this video and all of the videos in my educational program. As the video lessons are designed to work in conjunction with the program on my website, I ask you to, at some point, click on the URL link in the description box below, and this action will take you to the earlygiftedmanual.com. By doing that, you will be able to put this lesson and all of the video lessons here on my channel in the proper context of the total program that I am presenting to you and your child. And once your child gets reasonably solid with all of the coins, of course you can move on to paper money. And you will do this exactly the same way you did it with the coins. So once again, I'm going to abbreviate this lesson, not go into detail, because all the steps are the same. The only difference is now you're working with paper money. So you can start with the dollar bill, and of course that's a new vocabulary word, dollar. You could talk about that a little bit with your child, and here's a way you can explain what the dollar is. We can go back to our $1 coin, and you remember this coin, this $1 coin equals 100 cents. Well, this $1 bill also equals 100 cents. And in an exercise of logic, you could say, therefore, these are worth exactly the same. A dollar bill is worth the same as the dollar coin. And at this point, you can introduce the dollar sign. And it looks like this. It's a big S, as you know, with a line going through. So we're changing over from that cent sign into, now we're going to be working with the dollar sign. And of course, this is a $1 bill. So let's do this. The $1 bill is equal to $1. And I know I'm like playing, I don't know what you call this game here. We're going to pull this out, and $1 is 100 cents. And you can tell your child, well, now we're working with paper money, so we don't want to have all of these cents working up into big numbers. We're going to use this thing called a dollar, and in just a minute here I'll show you how you can better explain this concept of going to a different notation. And of course now the cent sign used to be behind the number, now it's in front of the number, so that's very important to point that out too. So you've done all the things with the dollar bill, and you remember them all, and you can go back and review them if you want, how you went through the coins. Of course, you start with the magnifying glass, and you compare. Pretty soon, next you can get into $5 and $10 and $20 and show the different exchanges and put an amount out and have your child count it, or tell them you want to count out so much. But of course, to do that, we will have to learn a new money notation, and we will do that very shortly, as well as something that I call the least to most line. And before we start looking at money notation and actually working with bills and coins, which is a huge step, a really great thing you can do with your child is to do what I call the least to most line. And you can see it's very obvious here what I mean. Penny to $20. And so you want one of each denomination coin and bills up to 20. And of course, needless to say, you're going to mix them all up and put them in a pile, and you're going to ask your child, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take these coins and take these bills and start out right here with the one that's worth the least and make a line all the way to the one that's worth the most. And if they have trouble, of course, you can model the entire activity for them, and you just saw it. I had it all laid out for you. And hopefully, after maybe one of those or zero of those modelings, your child will be able to just boom, boom, boom. Here we go. To do this. And it's a great exercise because that shows you, the parent teacher, that your child truly knows the value of these coins and bills and will be ready to work with them in combination. And so, of course, that's a big step. So before you get into money notation, and we'll do that here in just shortly, work with this. Work with the least to most value line. All right, here we go with combining paper money and coinage and money notation. So maybe we should start like this. Let's see, I'm going to take, and as you can see, I have a whole bank set up here, so you'll need to do that. As I prescribed way back in the materials list at the beginning of this lesson. Let's put this out. And you could say to your child, well, what do you see there? And he might say a $10 bill and a quarter, and ask him, well, how much are those worth? And he says, well, that's worth $10 and that's worth 25 cents. And you could say, well, what are they worth altogether? And that might really throw him. So tell him there's a way to write these amounts now that we've got into working in dollars and cents. And here's the form it takes. Starts with a dollar sign, and I'm just going to put a line there to say we're going to fill that in. And then we have this. And as a reader, he knows that's a period. And you could tell him in math, it's called a decimal point. And don't try to get too fancy into what, the finer points of decimal point. Just leave it at that. And then there's another amount going to be filled in here. And you could tell him, here's how you do it. This is $10, right? And he will certainly agree. And you could say the dollar amount goes to this side of the decimal point, the left side. And you could say, now let's look at the cents. And he would say, well, that's a quarter. And of course, you would ask him or her, well, how many cents? And they would know that that's 25 cents. And you could say the cents goes on this side of the decimal point. So that's how, and you could tell him that's how you write amounts of money. You have, first of all, the dollar sign. Then you have the amount of dollars, then a decimal point, then the amount of cents. And of course, you could do many examples with him. Let's see, let's try just to get something different in here. And this will illustrate a point when I'm about to do next here. This looks good. All right, so you can start out by the same format. Dollar sign. The dollar amount's going to go there, and then, ask him, make him say it. What is this called again? Decimal point. And the cents. So, how many dollars? 5. How many cents? And he should easily be able to count out 5, 6, 7. And a mistake that many kids will make is they'll just want to put a 7 there. And of course, that's meaningless. 5.7 or 5.7. This is very important that he understands this. You have to keep that 0 as a placeholder. And when you did the hundreds charts, when you started to get over 100, he should remember this. So you write it like this. 07, because we have nothing in the tens there. We just have ones. So 507, and let's say it was this instead. And that would be 510. So very important to point that out. And, that might throw your child a little bit because, we're mixing concepts here. He's trying to learn one thing and you throw another thing in, and we try to avoid that. But it is important that he learns about this idea of placeholder if you're below 10 cents. And of course, on and on you could go with this. You could put out any combinations of bills and coins, and you could have him write out the amount, as well as some of the other exercises we've done. You could put out some bills and some coins and say, okay, I want to know how much money do you have there all together, and then make him write out the amount. And of course, that'll be very challenging. And it's the same thing. You have to start out with the bills that are worth the most to the least, and then the coins that are worth the most to the least, and he has to do some serious skip counting. So he would skip count and count on with the bills first, and of course that would go in this space, and then he would have to skip count and count on with the coins, and that would go in that space. And obviously, I should say this now, because we're coming to the end of this money lesson. It's more than likely your child will not learn all this in a week, and I'm not trying to be funny when I say that. It's obviously a very complicated process to learn all of these coins and bills and whatnot. But certainly, if you chip away, work at it, on a regular basis, he or she will certainly be able to master money and counting money and making change and all kinds of things like that. I forgot if I mentioned this, but when you're doing these exercises, when you put out coins, keep the coins under $1, because that opens up a new challenge that you don't want to get into right away. And obviously you know what it is. You have to bring something over to the dollar part of this form. And we don't want to really get into that yet. So work with everything. Have your child write out these amounts. You could do exchanges. You could put out a pile of bills and coins. Remember, coins below $1, and have him count them out. You could you could write down an amount and say, can you count from the bank this amount? And of course, he or she should be able to do that after some practice. So there's a lot of ways you can approach this. And of course, like we did with the coins, you could add to, for lack of a better word, piles of money. You might have amount here and bills and some coins, and an amount here, with a plus in between with some bills and coins, and have them add them together using the techniques we've already worked on. And once again, I remind you, don't go over $1 with the coins, because that's something we don't want to go into just yet. So we've come, it looks like we've come to an end of this money lesson. And like I said, be patient. It's going to take place more than likely over a long period of time, but your child will certainly be able to work through all of this and become a master of money and money manipulation.